All right, I'm going to play you a little longer clip of what the president had to say yesterday, as I suggested, that mandatory vaccinations, the president obviously making that clear that that's coming. Yesterday, as he was concluding a visit to the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, President Biden was asked a question by a reporter on his administration potentially requiring all federal employees to get the COVID vaccine. Clip 5.
Will you require all federal employees to get vaccinated?
That's under consideration right now, but if you're not vaccinated, you're not nearly as smart as I thought you were.
Are you concerned that the CDC's new mask guidance could sow confusion?
We have a pandemic because of the unvaccinated, and there's sowing enormous confusion. And the more we learn about this virus and the Delta variation, the more we have to be worried and concerned. And then only one thing we know for sure, if those other 100 million people got vaccinated, we'd be in a very different world. So get vaccinated. If you haven't, you're not nearly as smart as I said you were.
You know, we have a pandemic because of the unvaccinated. No, we have a pandemic because China and the coronavirus. This is, of course, these are talking points. I played a clip earlier in the week from Governor Gavin Newsom, and that was essentially the same thing, blaming the unvaccinated. Now we're hearing the vaccine not as effective as they thought, and they're changing their tune. Originally, get the vaccine, you won't get sick. Now, get the vaccine, at least you won't die. May not work, may not keep you from getting sick, but you won't die. Well, joining me now to talk more about where the American people are on this issue of mandatory vaccination is Robert Cahaly. He's senior strategist and pollster at the Trafalgar Group. Robert, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Very nice to be here today.
So, Robert, you, along with in partnership with the Convention of States Action, you surveyed Americans to see where they stand on this issue of mandatory vaccination for the COVID virus. What'd you find?
This first point, this survey was conducted after the Delta variant was moving around, so that's an important distinction. But even at that point, mandatory vaccination only had the support of 21.8% of the population, with 71.4% saying it should be a personal choice. Now, that also, even as we broke down among party identifications, that's 58.7% of Democrats said it would be a personal choice, 87.3% of Republicans, and 67.2% of no party or independents.
That's those numbers are pretty strong in opposition to a mandated vaccine.
You know, they are, especially if you look at historically, and this is how we know something's different about COVID. We've seen this when asking parents about whether they think their kids should have to have the vaccine. When you look at people's general opinion of other vaccinations, you know, things like smallpox and a lot of the other diseases, polio, things like that are kind of accepted, the numbers aren't near that wide. So there is a skepticism about COVID and COVID vaccines in the public, be it right or wrong, that exist. And it is a different standard than they feel about most vaccinations that, you know, all but a few pretty much take for granted.
So I guess I would be asking you, Robert, to speculate on this, but maybe you did ask some questions about it. I mean, is this because of how it's been politicized with the CDC and the mask and all of this?
You know, it has a lot of different manifestations. I mean, the people have a way of kind of getting to their own truth. Just as like with the Wuhan lab, people determined, hey, it's more than a coincidence that there's a lab and that's where the thing came from. Just like with the unemployment, it's more than a coincidence that the government's paying people not to work and people aren't coming to work. People have figured out that there's something to this, that there is a frustration that there seems to be no acknowledgement of the internal. We hear, that's the feedback we get. There's no acknowledgement of the antibodies that you have once you've had the virus.
Right.
So people would feel a lot more confident if it was, yes, if you've been vaccinated, or if you recently had the COVID vaccine and recovered from it.
Yeah.
But that's not the way it's being presented. It's all vaccine or nothing with no exceptions, and they are hearing about some problems. And, you know, one of the comments we got, the most common, is that it disturbs people how hard they seem to be pushing.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, as you said, people can figure this out. They're not stupid, as the president indicated, just because they don't have a vaccination. Very quickly, we're almost out of time. Critical race theory. You did some polling on that as well. What did you find out? Where do the American people stand?
Well, we had some pretty clear differences on critical race theory, and one of the and this was not actually a poll about critical race theory. This was a poll about what people think should be done if it came to their schools, which is very different. But I think that's the poll we're referencing right now. We found that the majority of people oppose critical race theory, and we found that is in excess of 35% among even African Americans. But the particular poll was about what people think should be done if it comes to their schools. And we had a combination of the ones that said they should leave the school at 27%, or they should take up the school board at 24%, or at least keep a contradictory opinion at home at 29.1%.
People certainly have an opinion on it, and I think it's another one of those issues that's been politicized. People are hearing about it, and they're figuring it out. This is indoctrination. Robert Cahaly, great to talk with you. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you.